Gents, welcome to Fat Loss for Men that make a load of money. Chances are if you're watching, this is you. Now, if your belly walks into the boardroom before you do, or you're trying to lead a team, but you can't even lead yourself away from the refrigerator, it is typically not a discipline problem. So I'm gonna break this down in a few sections. YouTube will have it annotated down the bottom. So if you need to lose 30, you start there, 20, you start there, 10, you start there, etc. So if you're a bloke that needs to lose 30 kilos and you're a load of cash, but not a load of time, you are in what I call the swamp. Reason why I call it as a swamp is because it's just a load of shit. Doesn't matter if you gain a kilo, doesn't matter if you have another 5 beers, doesn't matter if you bury your head in some Bolivian marching powder. You don't really give a about your health, let's be honest. You probably care more about making cash, which is totally reasonable. However, you've probably gotten to a stage right now where you go, yeah, life ain't ironing out the way I want. People don't respect me as much as I want, or I don't respect myself. Maybe my missus is looking at the pool boy a bit too long when we're on holidays that you paid for. So what do we do, and how can we sort of, I guess, get some headway on solving it without taking too much time away from our day and without having to spend 5 or 6 hours in the gym every single week on top of nutritional and meal prep, all that sort of. Now, there's 5 ways that most of you have probably tried to lose weight in the past and now you're fat again. So it obviously didn't work. You would have tried keto, fasting, jabs, meal plans, or a load of exercise. Now, when you're trying to lose 30 kilos and your motivation's low, your energy's low, confidence is low, you don't need a system that works against you. Keto, you have to start cutting out Fasting, you skip your breakfast and you probably think, well, no, I feel like I'm a bit more locked in when I fast. Research does not suggest that you are any more capable as a result of fasting. In actual fact, cognitively, you will literally fall behind on test scores when they've researched it if you fast in the morning. Jabs, it's essentially a lease for your body with unknown long-term side effects. Sure, does it work? But you'll be looking like a limp noodle and not a man anyone would respect by the end of your fat loss phase, not to mention all the loose skin that you'll have. Plus, you can eat through it. Trust me, I've asked people and they've tried and they've succeeded. It's not a silver bullet. Meal plans, set food every single day, including weekends, minimal variability. Maybe they built in a treat or two for you within that, but hard to stick to for the rest of your life. And this is the main problem that a lot of you guys would suffer from. I could do it for a season, I'm locked in. You need to be locked in for life, mate. This needs to be something that is just smooth, like a system you follow that is just as effortless as living your regular life or as effortful, depending on the line of work you're in, right? But you know what I mean. And then there's lots of exercise. Now, if you're a bloke that makes a lot of cash, you probably don't have a lot of time to give to this. Otherwise, you probably would have solved it on your own. And that's why you're watching this video, this ball prick. So what is left? Food diary. 1, this is going to give you insights into what you're doing that's working and what's not. 2, this is going to give you the accountability. You know, the same accountability you give to your team when they're not performing. Accountability is the answer for a lot of things. That's why I coach successful men, because they need it and it benefits their life greatly. Just like your team need a boss, you need a boss of your health. Otherwise, you would have had it solved by now. So the food diary is going to give us insights and help us probably lose our first 10 kilos. Because truth be told, if you just have a little bit of accountability, losing that first 10 kilos is not easy, but it's relatively simple without you having to do any heavy lifting in terms of time and effort. So what I've found doing this for 16 years is the food diary approach is elite. 1, all the best fat loss transformation companies use this if they've got half a brain and want to coach people on lifestyle, keeping the result. And 2, from my experience, anecdotally, this is number 1 and the best because I work a load just like you guys. So now we've found a method to get off the first 10 kilos without adding extra time. Magic. So if we're in the 20 kilos, this is what we call the Twilight zone. And what we're going to do is going to keep going with the food diary. Excellent. So we might add in a 30-minute walk, getting to 6K steps. If you work from home, putting on one of those platforms so you can get to 10K steps can be really easy. You can even do it on meetings. Now, after our initial 10 weeks here, 10 to 12 weeks to that fat off, this is where we introduce walks or step count, weighing of food, which would be really important. Now that takes 2 seconds, or you can get your wife to do it. Don't give a But my advice is if you do give about your health, you should probably start educating yourself firsthand and don't just let the miso do everything. This is a time for you to take accountability and educate yourself and not outsource your own health for now. If you have nailed this and lost 10 kilos and you're doing really well, we'll integrate the gym, but when it makes sense. Because it takes a load of time to build muscle, and whilst you're trying to lose and get out of this swamp, you don't need to be adding more. You actually need to be doing less but better. That's why we do the food diary approach, because you can eat largely the same foods that you eat, we just eat smaller portions, and that'll help you drop your first 10 kilo without you really changing too much, as long as you don't eat like a long. The reason why this is called the Twilight Zone is because you lost 10 kilos, but you won't be able to tell the difference only when you do up your pants and only a little bit in your gut. That's it. You're probably 10 times fatter than you think you are. And even if you've got 30 kilos, you probably more realistically have 40 until you're looking like an absolute weapon, which I'm sure most of you guys watching want to do, otherwise you wouldn't be here. And then we have our final 10 kilos. This bridge here should take anywhere from 10 to 20 weeks. Now, if you want to build something great, you take your time and prepare and build appropriately. When you build a business or build a team, you didn't build it overnight and think it was going to kick off well. No, you put systems and processes and procedures in place. You have to hire, and so on. You have to learn. And so if you don't build out the right system, instead of all off and just cut the fat off like a cancer, we wrap it off so you get out of a place of pain. Then we start to slow things down to allow for life to sort of settle in, because when you start a program, you're super motivated. Towards the middle, in the Twilight Zone, you've lost all this fat, but you go, I'm still a fat. What does it matter? Fair to say? Right. So this last 10 kilos is where things need to get nice and dialed in. But right now, we've probably spent anywhere from 20 to 30 weeks losing fat. Decent, pretty solid. This last 10 kilos is where you have structure over discipline. Now, if you have structure, this reduces the heavy lifting. When I go to the gym in the morning, I finish up, I come home, I know exactly what I'm having for breakfast. It is yogurt, half a punnet of raspberries, half a punnet of blueberries, and an apple and a kiwi. That's it. No heavy lifting. I know what I have to do and I enjoy it. Now, some of you might hate yogurt, kiwis, etc. Now, that's what coaching is about. That's why we help you whittle down to what you like so the system feels kind of easy to follow. Because if I could pick any breakfast that I could have every single day, it'd be yogurt. It's time effective, hits my calories and macros, plus I'm gonna be the healthiest out there whenever I do get through it. And that's what matters to me at this stage of life. Healthy, strong, jacked, lean, showing up energetic. So with your set meals as well, you are going to be weighing or pre-portion. So if you have a 900 gram tub of yogurt, safe to say if you split it into thirds, that's 300 grams of yogurt per serve for brekkie. So common sense things like this that stop you from having to weigh everything is going to be part of what makes your fat loss journey that much smoother. Now, when we have 10 kilos to lose, we've moved ahead, kept the food diary, but we have our set meals and we have about 20% of fun in there. So that could be beers, 4 beers a week. I don't think it's going to hurt anybody, that sort of stuff, right? If you can, great. If it leads you to do dumb shit like it used to do for me, that's why I'm sober. I don't drink, so my 20% is usually date night. Works for me. Everyone's got to figure out their 20% because that's what actually makes life worth living. It's going to allow you to spend time with your wife or your missus or your kids and not have to sit there stressing about, am I going to nail my fat loss goals this week? Plus, who doesn't like some ice cream or some beers? And it just makes life more enjoyable. This whole fat loss thing, to make it sustainable, it has to be enjoyable as well from the outset. If it feels like a punish and you're already fat as you're going to quit like you've quit every other time. You could even add pre-prepped meals. So like meal prep boxes, meal prep lunches, they work unless your missus does it for you. But meal prep lunches could work really, really well too. Okay. My personal favorite is like Food for Fitness. I'm not sponsored by them. I just really like them. I don't really like My Muscle Chef. Food tastes like and anything that lasts for 14 days but claims it's fresh, I think they're that'll do for lunch. But probably what you want to do is have the same dinner as your family. If you're a half a decent father, you'll probably want to sit there and eat with your kids or eat with your wife and actually connect. So I like to make sure that that's built into the social part of your fat loss. Most coaches do not think about this stuff. They want you to follow a rigid system. But if this is top to tail built out for you as a man, and the success of this is predicated on how much you enjoy this, we have to make it fit every factor of your life. 80% structured, 20% fun food with the fam or whatever you want. Structure, again, over discipline. Pre-portion stuff to make life easy. Here we would add in gym 3 or more times a week. Now these could be 30-minute sessions, in which case you just superset everything like a demon just to get in the max amount in a 30-minute time window, or you'd go 45 to 60. Me personally, look, I'm a coach. I love working out and getting stronger and getting leaner and looking amazing. So I spend a lot of time at the gym. I'm not even going to lie. Like I'll wake up at 5, I'll get there at 5:36 and I'll do an hour and a half of cardio and I'll do my gym work. That's just who I am. Obviously you're seeing this because I give about it. So that's where my priorities lie at the moment. But in this last phase, we want to probably lose this in anywhere from 10 to 20 weeks. The reason why we want this to be lost, 20 kilos in 30 to 50 weeks, is because we're largely doing it differently. We can strip it off and you can get faster fat loss of losing 30 kilos in 30 weeks, kilo a week, super doable in the program, right? Killing it. We could probably even lose 2 kilos, but it's largely predicated on you enjoying this, because where most men up is they do it once and assume that's enough for life. But if I said, hey mate, I'm going to build you a wall and in 6 months that wall you paid 100 grand for is going to fall over, would you say it's a good wall and it worked? Probably not. Most people don't look at fat loss like this, and I'm sure you haven't either until this video. So if you do it once and you do it right and build it like it's meant to last versus build it like it's meant to disappear, fat loss becomes load easier. So this is more or less the breakdown from getting from 20, 30 to 20 to 10 kilos of fat loss, what your probably approach should look like in order to facilitate best results, what best time frame you should look at as well. Calories will vary based on experience, levels of activity, and truth be told, that's where the coaching journey comes in. So we can tailor literally everything to you, but essentially made this video for you. So if you're watching or you're curious about my coaching, you can kind of get a good feel of what to do, or you can take this and run with it. But you've had all the information at your fingertips anyway. But this is largely how we would approach it. And then we would work in you as a human on our calls and things like that to make sure we delivered you an awesome result in as short a time as possible by helping you enjoy it as much as humanly possible. Remember, if you're a bloke that makes a load of cash and you got sweet time and you want to change your life from the inside out, coaching programs for you. Cheers.